Right, hey people. I wanted to make this video because we've spoken to quite a lot of people who are using, sort of classic Snowflake as your stack. So, using Snowflake as the data warehouse, using a combination of Azure services like Azure Data Factory and Fivetran to get data in, and then a modeling tool like Coalesce on top with Power BI at the end. And a common problem people seem to be having is that, they're coming to Airflow to try and stitch this all together in Python. And where Airflow really excels is in letting you sort of do anything you want. And this, in terms of having just like 5 easy things to stitch together, it can be overkill. So in this video, I'm going to show you how we can set that up in Orchestra a lot more quickly. So the first thing to do is to create these connections for, in this case, I've just got 4. So your Fivetrans, your Coalesces, and then your Azure infrastructure, and then Snowflake. If we look at Fivetran, it's pretty simple. You just need to get the API key and the API secret from your provider. With Coalesce, it's kind of like a similar job. All you do is press this button to generate an access token. With Snowflake and Power BI, it's a little bit more involved. Normally, what you'll need to do is specify, basically create a user that has access to the role you want to use for remote execution. So in this case, I'm actually just using a user called Python connector user, but that should ideally be the Orchestra user that has access to the Python connector role. And then standard Snowflake credentials, stuff like this. It's the same thing you would have done when you set up Coalesce. And the final thing, which can be a little bit tricky, is just getting the Power BI service principal in. So to authenticate anything in Azure, you need to create service principals and making sure the permissions and the grants are correct. But as long as you have this dataset read write all permission and the service principal gets added to the Power BI workspace, this is also pretty easy to set up. And the process for this is the same for Azure Data Factory. Now, in terms of getting visibility into everything, at its heart, what we're doing is executing and monitoring like different data pipelines. So what we've got here is a super simple pipeline where we're running a Fivetran sync. So to get the sort of ID, you would go to Fivetran in this dashboard and get the ID from up here. It's normally a concatenation of 2 random words. We're also running a simple Azure Data Factory pipeline here. So this copy wait loop pipeline on this test data factory under this resource group under ADF ingest. And then we're running a Coalesce pipeline. There's a bit more going on here, so I'll just minimize some stuff so you can see. But basically, the name of the task is called Coalesce. All we're doing is triggering a job in a particular environment. So if you go to deploy, I can see there's this job called key pair testing where the ID is 8. So I've got the number 8 here. The reason for this syntax is just so that we can demonstrate how Orchestra allows you to like inject parameters at runtime. And then what Orchestra will do is monitor the Snowflake credits for all of your Coalesce queries. So adding that is done by putting in the Snowflake credential here, which we connected before. And then if there's a particular job in Coalesce or you want to configure a particular Coalesce connection, you can add this here too. A thing we see, which is super common alongside Coalesce jobs, are Snowflake tasks. The classic thing is to, execute a task that, moves some data into Snowflake from like a ADLS storage bucket. And you can do that in Orchestra just by running a query. The final step is just refreshing a dataset in Power BI, so pretty classic. And yeah, so we'll save that. Under the hood, it's just code. and then we can run it here. If I kind of go to the latest run lineage, you can see there's one that we've run before, and Orchestra will show you a list of all the jobs and how they've done. So we can see we've got a warning for the Coalesce job. So we go ahead and click Explore Lineage. And here we can see the graph that we just made. But as you know, and this is one of the most time-consuming things in Airflow, is understanding what's actually happening under the hood requires you to write more pipelines to get metadata. So Orchestra tries to save you time by doing that for you. And here we can see that this ADF activity is actually composed of many other activities. So here we can see this iterator has spawned a couple more operations. We've got the Fivetran activity as well. And then on the Coalesce side, we have the full kind of like Coalesce DAG. So in Coalesce, every time you do something, there's normally like a pre-SQL query, which we've got, and then the materialization itself, which could have some tests. And then sometimes there's also like a post-SQL. You might not necessarily have that. The cool thing is we also have the Snowflake task, which again, under the hood, is more than one query, but Orchestra gets all of that information for you and also gets you the Snowflake credits. And yeah, in this case, we've configured the Coalesce task to end in a warning state. So we have actually refreshed the dashboard at the end, and you can see that it's taken us 17 seconds to do that in Power BI. So yeah, that's sort of how we would set up end-to-end visibility for a pipeline on Snowflake and Azure. That looks a little bit like this. Leave some links in the description. But yeah, check them out if you want to learn more.